Good morning. Today is our first day here back in Hong Kong, and for my goal for today is that I want to start shooting more wide angle. As of lately, I've been only shooting in 24 to 70 within that zoom range, but I wanted to try to get back into shooting more landscape, more wide open scenery shots. So here I have is my Tamron 70-28 at the 2.8 lens. It was my first lens ever that I wanted to get for vlogging specifically, but I realized that the photos I took on that lens were more interesting because it was more wide open and I was able to get more closer to my subject, not because I wanted to, but I needed to, but that also created interesting composition. And last time I was here in Hong Kong, I complained that how the 24 to 70 just wasn't enough. I needed actually a wider angle lens, which I regret, because the building, when you take a picture, you want to take all the buildings. 24 is just a little bit too tight here. So to rectify my mistakes, I'm gonna bring this lens to use and see if I get any better results. Let's go.
We got to Hong Kong on an unusually sunny day. Just the day before we arrived, there was a big storm, and I've honestly never seen Hong Kong so bright.
Every time I've traveled here, it has been both hot, humid, and cloudy. And despite the deceptively good weather today, it is currently over 90 degrees and I'm sweating already.
We went northward to Kowloon from TST to Diamond Hill, where we will be visiting a unique park called Lian Garden.
This stop was something we decided very last minute, and while we didn't know what to expect, we of course ran into problems.
As we were walking, we realized that we might have been going the wrong way. So we decided to head back to the starting point. However, there was a construction going on blocking our path. This granny was also looking on how to get to the garden, and we had to tell her that the entrance might be blocked due to the construction. After 30 minutes of going back and forth, we decided to go the long way around the park. You can see why with my 17mm lens, just how big the park walls are.
It's early in the morning and we can see people already hard at work.
When we arrived to the Lian Gardens, my first impression was just how serene and calming it is. My favorite part has to be the juxtaposition between the traditional architecture of the park and the surrounding urban landscape.
Alright, so we made it to the Lian Garden, and this stop was kind of an impromptu stop that we planned last minute. And honestly, I don't regret it, because this place is absolutely serene and peaceful. And it's open to the public too. It was a little difficult to get around here because the garden is gated all the way around and there was like one entrance. But the moment you got in, you hear really peaceful music and the architecture is so beautiful, interesting, and traditional. And I think these shots with this wide lens is going to be awesome.
This place is so interesting as usually Hong Kong is a very industrial and busy city. And there aren't many parks that I've at least been to that are as peaceful as this one unless you go further out.
Just look how peaceful this area over here is. It's just amazing.
Using my wide-angle lens, I was able to capture so much details of the scenery between the park and the buildings that surrounded it. I'm just loving the glow coming from the sun, adding more dimension to these shots. Now this is the Pavilion of Perfection, which is at the center of the garden. And from afar, it's pretty clear that this building is almost otherworldly. It's hidden by the greenery that clearly divides the peacefulness of nature with the busyness that comes within a city. In the garden, there is a bridge which connects to a separate area called the Chi Lin Nunnery.
Originally built in 1934 and rebuilt in 1998, this Buddhist temple was designed with Tang Dynasty architecture in mind.
Just when I thought this place couldn't get any more beautiful, look how amazing this temple is.
Alright, so we just got to the Chi Lin Nunnery, and we actually didn't know this place existed within the Lian Garden, and it's really beautiful. In fact, I've been to Hong Kong like several times. I think this is like one of the most beautiful spots that I've ever been to. And maybe it's just me, or maybe I didn't do my research well enough, but I don't know why this is not advertised, because it has amazing architecture in this area, and it has a lot of informational stuff about the monastery, nunnery, and it's just really fascinating. I even saw some nuns coming in. I think they were just touring around, so this isn't like where they belong, most likely. It's really interesting over here and really beautiful, and there's a nice pond that's being taken care of. This whole place is really well maintained, so I totally recommend this place.
I really like this wood color that the temple has. I used the 17mm to take some portraits of Kate, and that wood tone really created this grand atmosphere while overshadowing her. For this photo, I liked how I framed this wide shot, which just shows the scale of the courtyard. Now from the Chi Lin Nunnery, we took the train one stop away to Choi to visit the very famous Choi Estates.
Alright, so we're in our second destination. Right now we're in the Choi Estate, also known as the Rainbow Buildings. It is quite famous, so if you look over here, this side is the basketball courts, and it's known for its luscious colors out here. Only problem here today is that it is extremely hot, and I'm currently in the shade, but bam, oh my gosh, I cannot see at all. I have an ND filter on, but it's gonna be a tough day out here trying to film and record, take some pictures, so let's see how it goes. I think for this shot over here right now, we're gonna switch over to the 24-70 just because I want to stay in the shade. I'm gonna have Kate take some photos of me right at the basketball court, and let's see how it goes.
If you didn't know, Choi Hung means rainbow in Cantonese, and it really reflects how playful the colors of the court are. Now for this shot here, just pretend I'm shooting a basketball, but could you just imagine an actual game being played here? This shot has to be my favorite. You might have noticed that there is some vignetting, and it's actually because of my ND filter, which shows at around 24mm on the wide end of the lens. I actually really like this, as it almost gives this playful fisheye look and encapsulates the entire building in the background. For these shots, I punched into around 50mm to pull in more of the background in order to show more details of the building. Which do you think looked better, the wide angle shots or the mid-range focal lengths? While it felt like I was getting roasted alive just by stepping into the sun, this was a very fun place to take a photo, and I do recommend this as a must-see if you are visiting Hong Kong. It's honestly not just a basketball court, it's a piece of art.
Now, unfortunately, at the time of this video, the Choi Estates has been slated to be demolished and rebuilt by 2028. This classic Hong Kong building has been around since the early 60s, and while understandable, it does feel a bit sad to see a historic site going away, which is why I'm so grateful for being able to stop by around this time. Using the Tamron 70-28 was enjoyable, and I wouldn't have been able to capture so much scenery without it. Now, this lens is a little bit older, but there are plenty of other wide-angle alternatives like the 16-28 Sigma and the Sony 16-35 that will provide you with a similar wide-angle result. The 24-70 is still my most versatile lens, but there is just something interesting shooting wide. While versatile, the shots you get with the 24-70 can sometimes feel boring even when there's so much range to have with it. And while the GM2 lens is lighter than its alternative, it still can become pretty heavy if you carry around over long periods of time. The combination of portability and the need to work a little harder to get an interesting shot is what makes the Tamron a slightly more enjoyable lens in my opinion. Now, this lens is my first ever lens for the Sony camera, but I think I didn't really appreciate it of what it could do until just recently. When reviewing my footage and photos that were shot on the 24-70, it felt like I was missing something. Everything looked like it was a little too close, even at the wide end of 24mm. Reusing the 70-28 made me realize that wide shots can become grand and take us into the image. Wider focal lengths at the end of the day make a more clear establishing shot, and I think that is what I was missing all along. It can be difficult to use if you're trying to isolate distractions, but if you're able to, I think the results are worth it. If you made it this far into the video, thank you for watching. Like and comment below on how you feel about wide-angle lenses, and stay creative. I'll see you guys in the next one.